Ladies, gents, welcome to another episode of League Chat with the Stat, coming into the business end of the regular NRL season for season 2021. Thank you for joining me on another episode this week, guys. Lot to get through this week. So much happening in the world of NRL. We're going to get through the ladder first. It's been a while since I've gone through the NRL ladder, but I have noticed quite a few changes. So let's get straight into that. Look, coming first, Melbourne Storm on 40 points, cleared outright first. On second and third, the Panthers and the Rabbitohs. Fourth place is Roosters on 30 points. They have now jumped up on top of the Eels. The Eels crashing out of the top four. The Seagulls are on fifth with 28 points, tying with the Eels at sixth. So Eels have had a big drop there, going down to sixth on 28 points. Knights move up to seventh and sit on 22 points. And the Titans and the Raiders share 8th and 9th spot on 20 points. 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th are taken up by the Dragons, the Warriors, the Tigers and the Cowboys. Second last are the Broncos on 12, and the Bulldogs will get the spoon this year, sitting on 6 points. Guys, thank you again for joining me on another episode this week. Guys, before I really get into the swing of things here, I just want to give a shout out and our thoughts and prayers to Andrew Fifita, the Sharks forward, who's got a fractured larynx, which is an injury into the throat. Now, he was having some issues breathing after the game on Sunday night. Once he had gotten ready, he got taken back to the from the sheds out onto the field, and his throat started swelling up, and he started to have shortness of breath, and was almost to the point of no breathing. Got rushed to hospital and has been in intensive care. I know that he's had surgery and had a successful surgery, and that they've told him that they've told his family that he'd be able to be recovered to the fullest, which is really exciting to hear. And what will happen now is he will spend the next few days in hospital recovering, and he will then start the recovery process. So, look, just wanted to give a shout-out, our thoughts and prayers to Andrew Fifita and his family and his extended family. Obviously, very, very tough time seeing a loved one, go down with a very serious injury such as that. There's been no talk in regards to his contract or looking to have that ended early due to medical retirement. That has not been discussed and is not the appropriate time to be discussed, while a lot of people are trying to suss out whether they can organise a sort of a bit of a payout for him, but I don't think that would be necessary. He's going to come back to full strength, and hopefully he gets to show up a bit more next year and make an impact for the Sharks. So just thoughts and prayers for the family of Andrew Fifita. Guys, getting into all things round 22 now. The Storm 26 defeated the Raiders 16, and look, Storm have eclipsed the Panthers and the Bulldogs, and they sit on 18 wins. It's their 18th consecutive win for the Melbourne Storm. Now, they did get found out a few times in the second half in that performance. I thought the first half was very dominant. They got off to a bit of a slow start, and then an error to Harley Smith-Shields on the wing after the Raiders had scored really set the tone for the Storm, and they just dominated that first half. And by them dominating that first half, got them out to a 20-4 lead at halftime. And look, it just goes to show that if you stuff up against the Storm, you know it's going to come for you. So the Raiders got the Raiders got the bare amount of that, and they copped in the first half, going down 20 points to 4. The second half, I thought the Raiders really stepped up, and they won that second half 12 points to 6. I thought they started to play really, really well, and they started to come back and make some dominant plays in the second half and showed the type of intensity needed to match up with the Storm. And we started to see a bit of the Raiders of old, and the Raiders that we're really used to in playing a high-intensity game, and they really came out in the second half and played a better game, but unfortunately being dominated as much as they were in the first half really played a part in that. So very unlucky for the Raiders. Now, the shot, Corey Haru-Naira's shot on Jerome Hughes, absolutely a shoulder charge. Very good decision for it to be a send-off. There was nothing, it wasn't in malice, it wasn't on purpose like the majority of high shots aren't. And obviously CHN being a very good mate of Jerome Hughes, all the time they spent together in New Zealand camp, CHN actually felt really bad for giving him that shoulder charge, shoulder straight to the head. Obviously not a good look for the game, but obviously not a good look seeing one of you copying it to one of your mates. So, look, very tough time for CHN. Obviously, he's rubbed out for the rest of the regular season, and hoping that Jerome Hughes is all right, and I know we'll be rested this week. The Panthers 34 defeated the Dragons 16. Look, I've got to give to the Panthers here, very, very solid defensive effort in the first 15 minutes. The Dragons had 10 sets in a row on their line. 10 sets in a row. That is some insane amount of ball. To get 10 sets in a row with Panthers without touching the ball and having them to defend each one out was phenomenal from the Panthers. But it's amazing how quickly they turned that into points. A cutout ball from Corey Norman really put it straight to the hands of Brent Naden, and that's it. It was that moment that really broke the Dragons. And the Panthers just ran away with that game. Nathan Cleary coming back, just he's amazing how he shapes that side in attack. It's amazing what he does in attack. I thought it was very good defensively as well. And we started to see Jerome Luai start playing his natural game again. He had a bit of a form slump, and having to lead the side isn't really his forte. But I thought he played really, really well, Jerome Luai. And look, shifting Matt Burton to the centres, another dominant performance from him. And just very good play from the Panthers, to have their core half in Nathan Cleary back into the side. The Dragons really struggled. I thought surely with 10 sets of the ball, they'll finally be able to do something and crack the Panthers line. But they were just very poor. They're now on 5-6 straight losses, and it's just adding on to the dramas that they've had this year. And it's just getting worse and worse. With Blake Laurie and Andrew McCulloch out now with season-ending injuries, it's only making it a lot more harder and tougher for the Dragons, which is very disappointing to see. There was a lot of promise for this Dragon side in the beginning of the year. Obviously, they had bought a few players and started to look dominant, and then they had that 4 or 5 week period where they started to look really good, and it just dipped once again. And look, it's been very poor showing from the Dragons this year. But I just wanted to call out here something that I came across on the weekend, which was actually very disappointing. On Friday night, Fox Sports released a lot of posts through their social media, through their Facebook and Instagram and all the other social media platforms they have. And on Instagram, they picked out some comments made about Corey Norman, the Dragons half, and put it out there. They grabbed about 6 or 7 comments showing that fans were ripping into Norman. Some comments were saying, my under 6 side can play better than Corey Norman, or how is he worth the $900,000 that he's on? And there are some points there that are justified, but for Fox Sports to go in and put that out really adds a lot to the player. It doesn't do well for their mental health. It really affects them personally, because now the guys that are at Fox League are now calling them out, on top of we've got to look after the players and the integrity of the players. And for Fox to come out and really do that was very poor and in very, very poor taste. Now, I've made it very clear on where Corey Norman is as a player. I don't think he is that great, and I've made that very clear. I won't go on social media and try to put out a comment so that someone can grab my comment and make a fuss out of it or make a very big deal. I've made it very clear on where I stand on him. That doesn't mean I think he's a terrible guy. Look, he's had a very few different seasons at the Dragons, to be fair. But I think the additional calling out and for Fox Sports to, for the professional organisation they are, to have that platform to spread positivity and to encourage, good behaviour and encourage good performances, not to take someone down on their very, very bad performances, I thought was very low. And I sympathise with Corey Norman and everyone associated with him, because obviously it's not a good look for the game. And we cry out for people to speak out about their mental health, and we cry out to the different organisations to see a way that we can look out for these players. And then to have them called out on top of all the crap they cop on social media anyway, I thought was really poor. So, look, regardless of the comments I've made previously about Corey Norman, it's not something that you want to read, especially from a big news corporation such as Fox Sports. So I thought it was really poor taste from them. They deleted the post straight away, but what goes on social media stays there forever. There were people that screenshotted it, sent it through, and look, as I said, very poor taste, and I'm glad that they deleted the post. And whether they sent out an apology to Corey Norman privately, I'm not sure, but very poor form from Fox there. So I just wanted to highlight that. The Roosters 21 defeated the Broncos 20. Now, look, I thought it was a very exciting game from both sides. I thought that both these sides played some very decent football. The officiating here ruined this game, and I can't, for the life of me, understand how that tackle on Satilu Tupanua from Thomas Flegler was considered a penalty. I cannot believe that. That is so poor. I understand the intensity of the game and the refs are under fatigue, but surely you look at that hit and there wasn't even a tap on the nose. There was absolutely nothing in it. For them to get that penalty in, for Roosters to convert, for Kieran to have a perfect night on the boot, shout out to him, but really ruined that game. It was so poor. The game was just intense from the get-go. Broncos had to defend a lot in the beginning once again. And then it was Roosters try, Broncos try, Roosters try, Broncos try. And it was a bit of like a seesaw where one thing would happen, then the other team would do it. One thing would happen, the other team would do it again. And I thought that call at the end was so crap. I really did. And I really felt for Brisbane in that moment because they had worked so hard to get to the position. They got that penalty in front when Victor Radley took out the legs of Albert Kelly. Obviously not intentionally, but trying to stop the charge down. But look, I just thought it was really poor officiating from the refs. Obviously, nothing can be done now, but we have to be better. And that was not a high tackle. I can't believe it was even penalised. I can't believe, Flegler having to take that upon himself that he feel like he lost the game for the team. It was very poor refereeing. But just, you talk about the little efforts in the game. You talk about Payne Haas, and I thought there was a point where James Tedesco made a break and cut through the whole side, whole Broncos side, down that left edge. Cut through, came through the middle. Who was there charging out the whole way to ensure that he got there in that tackle? Payne Haas. Every week, it's amazing he's got such a big motor, and for him to go out and to leave that defensive line to start chasing back and to get Tedesco, who's one of the fastest players and very skillful players in the comp, was unbelievable. We talk about Payne Haas and his leadership at the Broncos. We talk about what they're trying to build there and the right kind of intensity and not giving up in all facets of the game. And Payne Haas epitomises that. It's amazing. It is wonderful to see. And I'm loving every minute that I get to see Payne Haas on the field because with every carry he's dominant. With every defensive play, he puts his all on the line for 60 to 70 minutes a game, week in, week out. Just had to call that out because it was absolutely fantastic. Now, just on the Victor Radley charge, Victor Radley's getting a bit of a poor rap sheet in regards to him being in the judiciary so often. Now, look, I personally think that if he just changes a bit of the technique of how he charges down the ball, I believe he'll be a very, very efficient player who can charge that ball down and create opportunities for his side. Steve Price took out a few players when he first came into the grade. He got suspended quite a bit as well, and then realised that if he changed his technique a little bit in regards to charging down the ball, it could be beneficial for his side. And the amount of times he's done it for the Bulldogs, the amount of times he did it for the Warriors, one of them lets a try is the big fella. He even scored a try for one of those, and it was so important. All he did was change his technique around to still be able to get there in the ball, but not to charge at the legs and dive at the legs, which I'm not saying was intentional, but if you just change the tactic around that, I'm sure he'd be able to be as dominant as he can be. But look, Steve Price was the best at charging down the ball at any point in the game. One of the best by far. And he even had to realize he had to change his technique, and spend all those hours in training and to get it right and get it done. And he perfected that craft. It became a craft that he perfected that I believe a lot of players should look at in terms of when it comes to applying pressure to a half and applying pressure to the kicker that's kicking the ball and charging that ball down. I think he's so efficient. And I think Victor Radley can really learn off that if he wants to continually, go for those type of charge downs and those big heroic plays. He can do it without trying to go out for the legs of a player, which I think is really important. And it was very glad to hear that Albert Kelly didn't sustain a serious leg injury after that. The Rabbitohs 36 defeated the Gold Coast Titans 6. And look, it's 10 straight wins now for the Bunnies. As I said, they're starting to get better and better week in, week out. Their attack is flawless. It's amazing. I love their attack. But I just love what they're doing defensively. And I even loved when, David Feder came off the bench. It's been working well for the Titans for the last few weeks. Him comes off the bench and he just dominates those edges. But in this game, anytime Fafita had the ball, there were 3-4 guys on him. They didn't let him get an offload. They took him by the legs. They were just so dominant. Then Titans never gave him the ball. They started to drift away and tried to go another side when he's the most effective player on that field, down that right-hand side, or left-hand side, I think. You notice that he can be very beneficial to a side like in a game against the Rabbitohs. But the Titans shifted the ball to the opposite side. But look, in saying that, Titans weren't very good as well. Anything they built up over the last 3 weeks, it really led to nothing. And when you look at the side of the Titans, you start to see why they are so behind from the top teams. Titans, they were expected to do big things this year. I was expecting a top 8 berth for the Titans. Now they're absolutely fighting to get there. Whether they make it or not, I don't think so. I'd love to see them there, but I don't think they will. And I think there's so much they need to improve on and to get more players around certain positions where they'll be a genuine force and a more consistent side. Now, the Tigers 24 defeated the Cowboys 16, and this was easily one of the hardest games I had to watch of rugby league. It was so poor from both sides. It shows where they are really on the ladder. It shows just why they're at the bottom for a reason. Now, 2 in a row from the Tigers, you can't take anything from them. They busted their backside off and they get 2 in a row for the first time since last year. Now they're really fighting for that spot in the 8. And now because their defense has been woeful for most of the year, what they're doing now is they're just fighting to just scrape the barrel of the top 8. They're just doing what they can to try to get some solid wins. Cowboys, again, not very good. And I think a 9th straight loss for them now. They're just so poor. Nothing is working for them. Missing Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow and missing Jason Taumalolo immensely. Even though they're not really utilising him properly, just his influence he has on the side being on the field really lifts the Cowboys. And when he comes off, is dreadful, like I always mention. But him not being in the side at all really affects the Cowboys. So Todd Payton's job is to really get the best out of his side. Tom Dearden is now facing 29 weeks straight without a win. Poor Blake hasn't won a game in so long. And he needs a full preseason at the club. I always talk about players coming in mid-season and expecting them to be heroes isn't going to happen. That's not the way it works. They need a full preseason at that club. They need a full preseason with working on combinations. You can't just chuck him in mid-year and say, all right, get us some wins. It's a little bit harder than that. So I want to cut a bit of slack off Tom Dearden. I don't think he's an amazing player, but I think with a full preseason at the Cowboys, him and Townsend next year will have no excuse. But the Cowboys need a lift, and the Tigers need to just keep doing what they're doing to just find a way into the 8 and try to start winning those games. And I think just winning it by a big amount. And I think if they can do that, and they can really dominate that, I'm definitely sure that they can find a way with some magical calculations to get their way into the 8. The Seagulls 56 defeated the Eagles 10. Love watching the Seagulls play. Oh man, they are so good. They're amazing. Tom Trbojevic. I can just sit here all day and just watch highlights of Tom. What he does for that side in attack it's just phenomenal. I really have no words to say, if I'm quite honest. I love how he just organises that side defensively. He's always talking. He's always getting amongst it all. And I really love the fact that he puts in such a big performance week in, week out, and he's so consistent. Excuse me. Now, they really put the whole comp on notice. And when you look at the way they play, and every player that... there goes that lid. But every player that, that is in that side, that really buys into what they're trying to do, and they play their roles to perfection. The influence in the halves of Daly Cherry Evans and Kieran Foran has been massive. Seeing Foran play out pretty much a full year this year has been something I've loved to see. Then you've got, their dominance in the forward pack, and then the other backs, the class of the other backs. Ruben Garrick, again, I'll talk about him a lot, but he's been fantastic. He's had another phenomenal year for the Sea Eagles, and probably his best year yet. Brad Parker has been very good, and I think Morgan Harper coming into that side, really bringing out the best in Jason Saab and looking at just what this Sea Eagles side are really capable of doing. Now, I've got to talk about the Eagles here. They were very, very bad. You can't avoid it. They've lost now 4 or 5 of their last 6 or 7 games. Very poor. Defensively, they were a shambles. But in attack, they just made so many errors. Nathan Brown coughed up 2 balls in a row. Mitch Moses went to kick and the ball slipped out of his hands. Gutherson doing a cutout ball to Cartwright and then Cartwright dropping the ball. Like, just instances like that. Poor kicking game. The halves doing nothing again. Dylan Brown doing absolutely nothing except that try assist at the end to Wonga Blake. But they need to be better. The halves need to be better. But even the forwards, I thought the forwards were so poor. Makahesi Makatoa, on debut, by the way, was the only player in that side to run over 100 metres. He made 13 runs, 124 metres, 2 offloads, 1 or 2 tackle breaks as well. He had a very solid debut. I've been waiting for this guy to debut for so long. I've been seeing him play, and I've absolutely loved him. He took his opportunity with both hands and really shined and set the bar for where the Para Eagles forwards need to be at. But they're just so burned down. They're burnt out. They can't seem to lift at this time of year. In the most important time, heading into the finals, no matter if they lose the next 3 games, they are still finals bound. But, Junior Paul are running for 50 metres. Isaiah Papali'i, who's been their best all year, running for 40 meters. And Nathan Brown running for 60 meters. Like, it's very poor. These are players that run for 160, 170 meters, and that's their average. But it just goes to show that when you're making that many errors and you're not laying that foundation, a side like the Seagulls will take it and run. Now, that shoulder charge Ryan Madison did on Brad Parker, again, no matter, like, there was nothing, obviously not on purpose, but it was a very, very bad hit, very bad look. Very good call for the refs to send him off. And then when Martin Ukore made a professional foul and they were down to 11, it was just a field day for the Seagulls. They just they were laughing. Like, they were doing like trick plays like they did against the Bulldogs. They were just trying to do little things to get nails. It was 13-11. In the last 15 minutes of that second half, there was 15. It was 13-11 for a little bit before Ukore came back on from Simbin. What the Eagles need to do to get out of this slump, all the players need to be put on notice from 1 to 17. And they need to turn it around. It comes with this week against the Cowboys. They have to find something. Whether it's taking more time off, whether it's training harder, look, I don't know. But they have to find belief within themselves. They need to sit down together, realize where they're going wrong, and find what worked for them in the beginning to push through now to the finals. They have to find it. For the side that they have, it's really inexcusable. The Warriors 24 defeated the Bulldogs 10. Look, Warriors winning 3 in a row. Like, this is a big surprise for me. I thought really with Roger Tuivasa-Sheck leaving the club and Chad Townsend getting injured as well, I thought they were gone. I'll be absolutely honest here, but some of these players are just really shining a lot for the Warriors. Reece Walsh, again, another very good performance from him. Harris-Tavita played fantastic, but my man Josh Curran, mate, I love this guy. And I've loved him every time he's gone down that field, but he was just so good. He really attacked the left-hand side of the Bulldogs' defense. Caught him out. Made 2, 3, 4 line breaks in that game. A try assist, scored a try himself. Carried the ball for about 150-odd meters in a dominant 80-minute performance from him. It was amazing to watch. And it's amazing how he's the key, one of the keys in that side. Talking about Fanua Blake really leading from the front and the backs getting to work and just doing everything right. Against the Dogs side, again, a shambles. My goodness me, how Jaden Ockenbaugh got picked again. I know he was a late fill-in for Corey Allen, but I don't understand. He's very bad. He can't catch a ball. 2 tries he bombed. That would have taken us to 24-22 had we converted. Now, we always love the Bulldogs. We love conceding a try in the beginning and within the first 6 minutes, and then we show a bit of resilience, and then we try to fight back, and then Dogs fans get their hopes up, and then they start playing good in the last 10 minutes of the second half, and then they just go out and choke the rest of the half in the second half. So bad. Now, the contentious call regarding Sione Katoa and that shoulder charge. Look, I've got to be absolutely honest with you guys. I thought, I thought it was a high shot, absolutely. I thought his shoulder came in contact with the head from all the angles that I got to see. But that try getting taken off him really killed him. It looks like in that play that the shoulder charge to the head is more important than the knock on, which is why the rule was overturned. I get it, but I don't agree with it. If the guy's knocked the ball on first, it's a knock on. If he hits him in the head later, you put him on a report and you move on from the knock on. To get the try stripped off, I thought was really, really harsh, and it shot the Bulldogs' confidence, whatever minimal confidence they had, it just shot it down again. And look, the Bulldogs need to be better. There's no excuses. I'm not taking anything away from them. I thought Corey Horsburgh and Ryan James really made an impact on the field for the Dogs in the forward pack. I thought they really played phenomenal for us. I thought they were the 2 best on the field. But it's a case of same old for the Bulldogs, and nothing will change till next year, unfortunately. The last game of the round, the Knights 16 defeated the Sharks 14. And I've never seen a game where the Knights have copped so many calls go their way. I just can't believe that. The Sharks made a lot of errors, don't get me wrong. But that penalty where the 4 Sharks players took down the Knights guy in the into the dead ball line, which I thought was phenomenal defense from the Sharks, turned into a penalty, led to Knights kicking the penalty to win the game 16-14. Again, very poor officiating this weekend. Graham Annesley came out and defended it. I thought it was really poor. I don't believe at any point in that moment, I think it was Bradman Best, I think in that play, was not held. There was no point in him where he was held. And so I thought it was a very, very poor call. to have the game go on and continue. I just thought wasn't the right call. And the Knights should be putting the Sharks away by comfortably. I just don't understand what it is about them they can't do that. They got off to an extremely fast start and scored in the first minute. And they just allowed the Sharks to come back. And then the second half, all the calls went their way. And still, with all the calls that went their way, they still couldn't put the the finishing touches on it. Using Bradman Best as a decoy when he's one of your best attacking weapons isn't going to work. It's not going to work. I don't see how Newcastle don't see this. It's not going to happen. Nothing will happen from it. Nothing will come of it if you're not using your best players in the main parts of attack. When Tony Staggs played for the Broncos and they gave him early ball, yeah, he was throwing players off. He was creating opportunities. For the first half, maybe the first 60 minutes of the game, they used Bradman Best as a decoy. And they were giving the ball to Mitch Barnett. No disrespect to Mitch Barnett. I think he's a phenomenal player. But if your main attacking guy, one of your main attacking guys is Bradman Best at full strength, I'd definitely be sending the ball to him early. Defending a couple of players, trying to attract the defense in to offload it over to Nrl Ladder or Hamo Hunt. Absolutely, I would. But look, Newcastle, I don't think Adam O'Brien is actually a very good coach. I think he's very poor. Look, they get the win. Don't get me wrong. That's 2 or 3 in a row now for the Knights, and they go into 7th spot. But they don't convince me. They're not that's not a side that is really convincing to do any damage. It sucks, but they're just not there. News around the NRL world, guys. Now, Titans and Broncos are the 2 new clubs linked to Joey Manu. Titans think he's worth about $900,000 to $950,000 a season. Want to put him in at 5/8. The Warriors have also discussed Joey Manu, as we all know, but they've also been linked with Dylan Brown for 2023. But they say Dylan Brown going in at hooker with Sean Johnson, Joey Manu in the halves, and Reece Walsh at fullback. Not sure how Dylan Brown will go at hooker. He'll need to beef up a lot of size and to do a lot more defensive work. Look, I think it could work. I don't think it's a terrible idea, but I wouldn't be paying Dylan Brown a lot of money with the form he's currently in at the moment. The Brisbane Firehawks, one of the new of the 3 potential franchisees to jump in the NRL in 2023 or 2024. So on the 5-year deal with the Queensland Capras, should they get into the NRL as their feeder club, which is very exciting with a lot of talent coming through the Capra side. Joey Lussick will be looking likely to head back to the Super League after being offered a massive 3-year deal by the Huddersfield Giants, which I'm thinking he will take. The Broncos have been really busy this week in terms of their recruitment and retention. They have re-signed Keenan Palacia for an additional year. They've re-signed Xavier Wilson for 2 years. They're forward. They've re-signed Tessinu. They're back for 2 years. They've also signed Corey Jensen for 2 years. And they've ruled out signing Josh Maguire after they were looking at considering bringing him in. They're going down the route that Storm go through and that no idiots policy. I'm trying to keep it as appropriate as possible, but I'm sure you guys get where I'm going with that. Now, the Titans have kept on Kevin Proctor for an additional season going into 2022 with his leadership and experience being very pivotal for the young forwards coming through. Now, the Parramatta Eagles have released a statement confirming that negotiations between them and Clint Gutherson for a new deal will be put on hold to the end of the season because in the rut they're going through at the moment, the last thing they need to be talking about is contract negotiations with one of their main guys in Clint Gutherson. So a very smart call there from Para. About time someone there used their brain. Dan Levi has been told by Brisbane he wouldn't be re-signed. So he'll be looking likely to head over to, I believe, which is Salford on a potentially rich deal over there. Unless any NRL club comes in last minute, I don't see him sticking around the NRL, unfortunately. The Dragons have been linked with Viliama Kikau for season 2023 onwards. Looking to offer him a massive deal to keep him in the NRL and to hand him over to Anthony Griffin's side. Anthony Griffin, as a reminder, guys, he actually gave Viliama Kikau his debut at the Panthers. So there's a good relationship between those two. But I know the Cowboys have reached out as well and looking to bring Viliama Kikau back home. He was part of their junior system and they let him go. Don't understand how, but he's now become a beast at the Panthers. So we're looking to see what developments happen around Viliama Kikau. On the Dragons, they have re-signed Tyrell Fulma-Ono for the next 2 years, and they've confirmed the 2-year deal today to Moses Mbai. So they're keeping it to the end of 2023. On Parramatta again, they've announced the retention of Bryce Cartwright on a 2-year deal to 2023 and raised down to the end of 2022. Now, on Parramatta, once again, Brad Fittler has been linked with a potential head coaching role of the club. Now, I know that the New South Wales Rugby League have a meeting next month to determine the extension of Brad Fittler's contract, with him winning another Origin series and him winning 2 of 3 or 3 or 4 Origin series thus far. They'll want to keep him here long term, being that he is the guy to lead that side. But Brad Fittler has mentioned that he is pretty keen to go back into head coaching in the NRL, And if things don't work out with Para and they move BA on, there's a good chance that Brad Fittler may be heavily considered to coach the Parramatta Eels. Now, Titans have announced the retention of Greg Marzu for 2 more years, or Greg Lili-Surea, as he used to be known as. A guy that I've been a fan of for many years, finally getting a crack in the NRL at the Titans, and has shown exactly why he's been begging for a debut for so long. I thought he's been outstanding this year in the opportunities that he's had, and he's staying at the club for another 2 years, which is phenomenal to see. James Maloney, his career spanning over 13 years, has announced his retirement today at the end of the season. This will be his last year at Cannonlands, but look, all the best to James Maloney in retirement. What a phenomenal athlete. You know, seeing him carve up for the Storm, the Warriors, the Roosters, the Sharks, and the Panthers. Everywhere he went, he just took success with him. You know, he won comps at the Roosters, played a pivotal role in winning the comp for the Sharks in 2016. So, look, absolutely phenomenal career that James Maloney's had. Anyone that's played alongside him, he's made them better players. And he's an absolute champion bloke as well. So, mate, all the best in retirement. Now, the plan for him is he's looking to stay another year or 2 in Europe with his family loving the lifestyle there. He might play in one of the local leagues in France before heading back over to Australia and then looking to cement himself as a coach in the NRL. So, looking with a lot of interest to see what kind of role James Maloney does play. Currently, his side sit first on the table, so he'll be looking to get some silverware to Catalans before he departs at the end of the season. The Roosters have signed Connor Watson on a 2-year deal. I believe it's for a bit less money than what he was offered at the Knights. Knights came in with a late 3-year offer to try to keep Connor Watson there. But unfortunately, Connor Watson has rejected that deal and has signed a $600,000 deal with the Roosters for 2 years, which is a very, very good deal. In my opinion, I think the way he's been playing this year has been outstanding, and his commitment to being better has been there. So I'm a big fan of Connor Watson and love the fact that he's gone back to the Roosters. I believe his development under Trent Robinson will only grow, and going back to his home club will be even better and more influential for him. Sean Johnson has been released back to New Zealand a little earlier than expected. So he has, now that because there's a lot of restrictions back in New Zealand at the moment, he has reunited back in New Zealand to be with his family, and he's heading back to continue his recovery in New Zealand. The Storm have re-signed Jason Grant and Isaac Lumi on 1-year deals. Isaac Lumi, the winger, will be there on a development contract. They've also announced the signing of Bronson Garlick on a 1-year deal from the Rabbitohs, just to beef up their stocks there. And the last bit of information here on the Bulldogs, they're chasing John Asiata for next year. They see him with the ball as a potential ball-playing lock and someone that can bring some impact off the bench. I think around the right system, John Asiata will be a good player. Hopefully, that he gets back to his best as he's currently recovering from neck surgery. Guys, last segment, round 23, ins, outs, and whereabouts. A lot to get through with this one, guys, so you got to bear with me on this. Titans come up against the Storm on Thursday night. Jaden Campbell's recovered from an ankle injury. Will take the spot of AJ Brimson, who will be out for the season with a jaw injury. Jamal Fogarty will come into the side to take the spot of Toby Sexton. Aaron Clark will start at hooker, with Mitch Rain being dropped. And Tino Fa'asuamaleaui will move from lock to prop to take the spot of Moriaki Fotuaika, who's out with an ongoing knee injury, with Sam McIntyre coming in as the new lock in that side. For the Storm, Ryan Pappenhausen slots back into fullback for the first time since his return from concussion. Now, Nico Hines will shift to halfback to take the spot of Jerome Hughes, who's out due to concussion. Dale Finucane is also out due to concussion, so Chris Lewis will come into the starting side, and Tepai Morawa, the former Parramatta player, will join the bench, alongside Cooper Johns and Jordan Grant. And Harry Grant has been named at hooker, with Brandon Smith being rested this week. George Jennings is also back in the side. Will take the spot of Dan Aramea, while Justin Olam is being rested, and he's replaced by Marion Seve. Look, I think the Storm will go and hit their 19th straight win, and I think they'll do it by about 16 points in this game. The Raiders are coming up against the Sea Eagles. Jarrod Croker will be rested this week after copying another concussion, and Tom Starling is out with a broken jaw. So Charles Nicoll-Klokstad will return from his injury via the bench, and Sebastian Kris will replace Croker, while Matt Frawley will join the bench as well to provide some cover for Tom Starling, who's out. For the Sea Eagles, Brad Parker is out after being heavily concussed on the weekend, being replaced by Moses Sully, and Toa Fafawa-Sipley returns from suspension, pushing Kurt DeLuey out of the 17. Now, if Tom Trbojevic he's been named to play, but if he does play, and he's named in the late mail, which you guys should be always checking to ensure any last-minute ins, outs, or whereabouts, then Sea Eagles will win comfortably. If he is out, I will still back the Sea Eagles, but I think it'll be a lot closer contest. I think it'll be about 4 points. Sea Eagles will win that game. The game of the round for me, the Panthers come up against the Rabbitohs. Apasai Coruscant will return from suspension to replace Mitch Kenny, who moves to the bench. Kurt Capewell returns into the side on the bench. Now, James Fisher-Harris and Tavita Pangai have been listed among the reserves and expected to come into that side. And Capewell will replace Isaac Targo, who moves to the reserves. For the Rabbitohs, they get a massive boost with Dane Gagai, Campbell Graham, and Alex Johnston coming back into the side, taking the spots of Braden Burns, taking the spot of Tane Milne, and I believe taking the spot of Josh Mansell as well. Now, Hame Saleh will jump on the bench with Jaden Sewell moving back to the reserves. Look, I think with all those reinforcements coming in for Panthers, I believe, and with Nathan Cleary back at half now, this is such a tough game. I really don't know. Any team could really win this, but I think Rabbitohs will really turn up for this game, and they'll have that edge. I think Wayne Bennett, his edge will prevail here. And I'm going to go the Rabbitohs by 2 points. It's a very tough call. I know it's very, very tough just looking at it. I'm just trying to get an understanding of both sides. But if those Panthers come in, they will make it very, very, very tough, 100%. But I think Wayne Bennett at this time of year just knows exactly where his side needs to be, and I'm going the Rabbitohs by 2 points. Tigers will be coming up against the Sharks. Thomas McKaylee and Jacob Little are both suspended for the week and will be replaced by James Tamo and Jake Simpkins. And James Roberts will come off the bench on this game as well. For the Sharks, Maloney Hiroti comes back from a hand injury in the centres, pushing CC for Talakai back to the second row. Toby Rudolph has been moved from lockup to prop, with Brendan Hamlin-Ueli on the bench, with Tomlin being suspended, and Andrew Fafita out with a fractured larynx. And Teague Wilson has also been added to the bench here. Look, I'm gonna go the Sharks. I'm really feeling the Sharks for this one. I think the Sharks will get this one by 6 points. The Bulldogs come up against the Knights. Kyle Flanagan is back in the starting side, taking the spot of Bailey Biondo-Odo, who moves to the bench. Corey Allen, who was a late scratching last week, will come into the side over Falaki Kumanu. Can't believe he's not taking the spot of Jaden Ockenball. I think he's just been so poor for us. I'd rather Falaki Kumanu move to the other side and punt Jaden Ockenball for the year. Luke Thompson comes back in from suspension, pushing Alvasi Manafagai to the interchange, and Jackson Topaner will replace Jeremy Marshall-King at hooker, with Jeremy Marshall-King heading back to Sydney for personal reasons. And Corey Waddell will replace Matt Dury in the side as well. For the Knights, Daniel Saifidi is out for the next 3 to 5 weeks with an MCL injury, and he'll be replaced by David Clemmer. Tyson Frizzell suspended for the week. He'll be replaced by Brodie Jones. Nathaniel Sasagi will drop to the reserves, and the new members on the bench are Josh King, Dave Buden, Jara Momoisi, and Chris Randall. I think I've said Momoisi's name wrong, and I do apologise in advance if I have. I think Knights are that poor. I think the Bulldogs will actually win this week. I think the Knights don't really have what it takes. I think they've just been... This is a game they really should win and should dominate, but I just don't see it happening. And I'm going to go Dogs by 8 points and a bit of a shocker this week. The Eels come up against the Cowboys. Ryan Madison is suspended and is replaced by Marata Niukore in the second row, with Oregon Kafusi moving to the bench. Tom Opicic and Michael Alford have been dropped after their poor performance last week, and Will Penasini and Hayes Dunsar will come into the side to replace them. And for the Cowboys, Ruben Cotter returns to replace Griffin Emi on the bench, who has been suspended for 1 week. Now, look, any normal bloke will back the Eels here. I think they're just so low on confidence. I reckon the Cowboys could actually shock them. I think they could really take advantage of the Eels being so poor. And I'm going to go Cowboys by 4 points and another shocker this week as well. Dragons come up against the Roosters. A lot of dramas here at the Dragons once again. Andrew McCulloch is out for the season. Josh Maguire will come in at hooker to replace him, and Jack DeBellin moves into lock. And Tariq Sims will return from suspension as well, and will swap with Jack DeBellin at lock, and DeBellin will go second row. Kate Ellis has been moved from the interchange, taking the spot of Blake Laurie. Matt Duffy will come in at fullback, with Jack Bird moving to the centres and Gerard Bill dropping out of the side altogether. Adam Clune has been demoted, with Corey Norman shifting to the halves, with Talatau and Maloney bumped up to 5'8", with Jaden Sullivan and Daniel Alvaro jumping onto the bench for this game. For the Roosters, JWH returns with Isaac Liu moving to lock, taking the spot of Victor Radley, who's suspended for the next few weeks. And I think with this game, I'm going to go the Roosters, and I'm going to go the Roosters by 18 points. In the last game of the round, Broncos come up against the Warriors. Anthony Milford's back into the side, replacing Tyson Gamble, who's injured and suspended. Albert Kelly will move into halfback. Herbie Farnworth will take the spot of David Mead in the centres, who will be dropping out. And Ethan Bullimore will come onto the bench and take the spot of Xavier Wilson, who unfortunately has suffered an ACL injury. For the Warriors, Dallin Tennis Lesniak will take the spot of Edward Kosi, returning from suspension, who's been dropped. Jermaine Tanua-Brown has moved from the bench to take the spot of Jackson Frey. And Bailey Siwanen coming in at lock will move Justin Vanga to the bench. Oh, it's actually going to be a tough game, this one. And I think with Milford back in the halves, I'm going to go the Warriors by 9 points. I've gone 9 here. I think they'll get a sneaky field goal and then probably score a try. So I'll go Warriors here by 9. Guys, thank you so much again for joining me on another episode of League Chat with the Stat. Ensure to like, comment, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel and to our Facebook and social and Instagram pages on social media. And guys, enjoy round 23. As we're heading to the business end of the season, let's get amongst it all. Let's really enjoy these last few weeks as we get ready for the finals. Guys, thank you so much again for tuning in. Have a lovely week. Enjoy the footy. We'll be back same time next week. Take care, guys.